Yo, welcome back to Creeps and Crimes
Podcast.
I'm Taylar.
I'm Morgan. Happy Thursday and happy episode 227?
227, yes.
Yes.
It's a Thursday once again. What are we all doing?
Working.
Recording. Doom scrolling.
Well, I'll tell you about my morning this morning. So I wake up, just real quick, ice out the ass. Like, I didn't expect that at all.
No, me either.
And because everyone was like, oh, it's going to be a warmer week this week.
No,
I
frozen solid.
had to scrape my car and then still sit in my car, put it on defrost. Well, I had ordered my Dunkin before I even got to my car.
Right.
So it was already a little delayed, right? So I texted everyone. I'm like, I'm going to be late for work. And if I'm already late, I paid for the Dunkin. I'm still getting my Dunkin. So I go to Dunkin also. So I'm late. I'm running late. I'm freezing cold.
Yep.
My car's taking forever to defrost. I get to Dunkin and they're like, is this for Morgan? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, we're out of caramel swirl. It's
What?
6 a.m. Dunkin.
What do you mean, babe?
That's like got to be one of the most popular flavors that you have. What do you mean?
Right. What are you talking about?
So I was like, well, what's a good substitute? And she was like, butter pecan. I'm like, I can't have that.
I'm allergic.
I was really sad because I had just mastered my coffee, my
Yeah, you
iced
did.
latte, and I did do the blueberry. I like the blueberry more.
It's
so I do
nice.
3 pumps of caramel swirl, 2 pumps of blueberry,
Damn, girl.
and a medium iced latte.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It is good. It's killer.
You know, me and Nikki, I actually talked to Patreon whenever I did this, but last Friday morning, Nikki Snapchatted me and she was like, what I would do for a Dunkin' coffee and donut. And I was like, well, when's your first meeting of the day end? She was like, should be done, you know, around 11. It starts at 10:30. I said, great, I'll leave my house at 10:30. I'm gonna drive down to you. We're gonna go get Dunkin', and then we're gonna go across the street and we're gonna get Blossom Bowls. I'll take you back home. So we're like, okay, perfect. Like, this would be the perfect kicked off to our Friday. Let's go. So, you know, I drive down there, we go to the Dunkin', and I don't know why we keep going to this very specific Dunkin', and I can't like give any details.
I know exactly what
You know
about.
which one I'm talking about. It's beside our other doctor's office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I used to go all the time with the kids.
Yes. So this, I don't know why we keep going to Dunkin'. Now, backstory. When she was moving in a week prior to this, we swung into that Dunkin' to go get us some coffee. And it was like 11:30 in the afternoon. Same time that we ended up going this past Friday. Well, we pull up, by the way, a freaking Thursday. We order our coffees, and we're the only people in the line here ever. I've never seen a line outside of this one. And we pull up to the window. The girl opens the window. First off, literal, like, visible smoke pours out. My whole car smells like dank.
Oh, like weed.
Weed. So strong that I was like,
I was thinking like a fat cloud, like a vape.
No, babe, I'm high. I'm stoned. I'm stoned from this interaction. My ear is ringing so bad when I'm speaking that it's like geek, 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 geek. Let me shake it out. So I'm just gonna have my finger in my ear if you're watching on YouTube for a second. So anyways, it smells like freaking dank. Okay, we get the coffee. The coffee's ass. Of course it's ass because they're stoned in there making
100%.
it. So me and Nikki go back to this one this past Friday, and we're thinking like, we even got smalls because we were gonna go get small smoothies from the smoothie bowl place. It's just one of those days you need both. You know, yeah. I couldn't do with one. I need to have both. So we get a small, and I'm like, there's no way they can fuck up a small. Like a small, you can't really fuck up, right? We took one sip. It didn't smell like weed this time, but I was being an idiot in the drive-thru. Like, you know, like when you're just not on your game.
Yes,
I pull up,
I do.
I like pay them, I get everything, and I'm sitting there waiting. And he's like, isn't that all you had? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm embarrassed. I need to leave. I'm so sorry, sir. I got to go. But Nikki really wanted we both wanted our favorite donut from there. And currently our favorite donut, we rotate, but our favorite donut currently, and probably for the last 3 years, has been the double chocolate donut. We order it. They're like, we don't have those anymore. I'm sorry.
What do you mean?
Did you just shoot me in the chest? Because
what do you mean?
What do you mean? We don't have
it's
those
a
anymore.
classic.
Do you mean that like
was
you're
never
out?
Seasonal.
Yeah, literally, I'm like, do you mean that you're out? Or do you mean like they are never, ever coming back? Because mind you, 2 days prior, I got one from the Dunkin' closest to my house. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I literally just had one.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah, what do you mean? So I didn't get any clarity on it because I was too
Surely
busy being a dumbass in the drive-thru. I gotta be honest.
You're embarrassed. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have time to fucking ask because I was too busy being an idiot.
Yeah, you know what I haven't had in a long time is a smoothie bowl.
Let me tell you
but
something.
I'll just save it for Hawaii.
Yeah, that's where you need one. I got a green monk smoothie from Blossom Bowls. If you live in Knoxville, go get a green monk smoothie. I don't think you can have one. Definitely not.
Yeah,
it has all all nuts on it. But it is literally my favorite one. It kind of makes me feel like my waist is a speckle of dust.
Ooh.
It tastes like how LA smoothies taste, like Air One smoothies taste to me. I love it so much. Oh my God, here's another bad bit of news. If you guys have watched my lives that I used to do religiously in the morning when I was making my breakfast, that was back on my kick where I was forcing myself to eat breakfast. Now I eat breakfast around lunch. Anyways, I was on that kick where I was making sourdough, hummus, feta, and or goat cheese drizzled with sriracha, red pepper flakes, spicy olive oil, toasted, eat
Spicy olive oil.
Yeah, it's mine and Logan's like obsession.
Where?
Recently. We tried it in Italy. We brought a bottle back, and then I've only been able to find it since then at Home Goods. So when we run out, I literally go scour through the shelves of Home Goods. It's the best. You have to try some downstairs. On pizza,
That's so good.
Unbelievable. So I was eating that religiously. Well, that was inspired from Blossom Bowls. The first time I ever got it was at Blossom Bowls. They used to have it on their menu. I pulled up that day. They don't have any of their toasts on their menus at the drive-thru. They always have like 2 different avocado ones, one spicy avocado, one not spicy avocado, and then the hummus. So I'm like, and can I get the hummus toast? And they're like, we had to stop selling that because no one buys it. I'm like, but me.
I do.
I buy it religiously. Like if I damn near pass this facility,
this is terrible news.
I purchase it. And I was like, girls, we have to tell the ladies that come through here in their minivans, because I'm not shitting you, there were 5 minivans in front of me when I was going through this. So I, like, of course, had to give that bit right there. I was like, we have to tell the ladies that are coming through in their minivans that they need to try it. Like, we got to have better marketing. We need to have a picture of it on here because people don't know until they know.
Yeah, you guys don't promote
You don't know until you know, right? Like, you don't know that that's something you need in your life. Like, who would think hummus on toast? Not me. Not my little southern ass. Mm-hmm. But once I did, it's all I've been able to think about. I make it religiously.
Yeah, I've never thought about that, but that does sound really
Yeah, so then
good.
I had to go rant about that to Patreon in our group
Do you
chat.
like mango?
I love mango.
How do you cut a mango?
Similar to an avocado.
What the fuck is the seed inside the mango?
You got to stay away from it. Think of like how the core of a pineapple is.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, you can't cut it in half.
I bought one at
it.
Trader Joe's on Sunday, and I cut it before I came here. And I watched a video on TikTok, and I was like, oh, this looks easy. And I started doing it. I'm like, why is my knife getting stuck? And I'm like looking. I'm like, I don't see anything. I didn't see a seed.
If you dry the core out, it gets furry.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's cool looking.
I don't think I like that.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Only reason I knew how to cut a mango is because Logan's grandfather used to plant mango trees at every house that they lived at, and they'd have multiple. So like he grew up eating mangoes, and he will every once in a while when he goes to the grocery store, if it's mango season, he sees a good mango for me, he'll bring it home for me and he'll cut it for me, and he taught me how to cut it. And decadent.
I saw a girl at work who had cut up mango and pomegranate. And I was like, like a good contrast.
That's a great contrast.
And so I wanted to copy.
Right.
But I couldn't figure out how to cut them.
Just get the pre-cut ones. The pre-cut mango.
I wanted to be a big girl.
Yeah, I know, but you don't get as much from it.
No, you really don't.
You don't.
I was like, all of that I should have gotten too, because I was like, I've had mango in the past, but I was like, I can't remember if I like it like this. I love mango flavoring. Loved mango Juul pods. By the way. Loved a good mango Juul pod. R.I.P. Okay, but I didn't know if I liked
that with the cranberry vod in Uptown.
That was
sticky floor shoes.
That was something else. That was an era to live in.
Was
with the high neck but cut out V.
And a choker on, don't forget it.
The bow tie choker.
My God. The eyebrows from hell.
Yeah.
I mean, and broccoli playing in the background.
Yeah.
Look, truly, you had to be there.
Yeah, you had to be there.
You had to be there.
But anyway, so I knew I liked mango, but I was like, I didn't know if I liked like mango fruit. I couldn't remember the last time I had it. So I saw it. I was like, I'm just gonna fucking try it. Get a little pomegranate, some strawberries, make a little like fruit salad. And it was really good, but I couldn't figure out for the life of me how to cut it. I was getting so pissed off today.
Hey, random side note that I just like need to get off my chest. I don't know if the Super Bowl Sunday is a really big day for us. Not because of the Super Bowl, but also because of the Super Bowl. Obviously, like if you listen to the podcast long enough, you literally know that for years, me and Morgan have always like had to work around the Super Bowl, especially back in the day when we would record on Sundays.
Yeah, we would literally be recording on the Super Bowl.
Literally. And so the boys would be out watching it in the living room. Anyways, I've been, excited to see who was going to play in the Super Bowl this year, because also that day we're doing a Galentine's Day with like this big group of girls in Knoxville.
So excited.
Like some that we're super tight with and have been for a long time, like our besties that you all know their names, and like some newbies that we're bringing in.
I am really excited.
Think of a name.
for it.
I'm very excited because what we talked about when we were all out at New Year's is that we want to do like a monthly thing that's scheduled, that we rotate host, either a dinner or like a little get together that's like 3 hours once a month where we all can just like be girly for a little bit. So this is like our first rendition of it. And so we'll do another one. Of course, me and Morgan will be hosting in March because St. Patty's Day.
I cannot believe I signed up for a dessert charcuterie board.
I literally can't believe you did that either.
I was in the mood to make chocolate covered strawberries.
Yeah, I knew I knew it had to be a temporary mood.
And now I regret it.
Anyways, of course, we have like 2.0 Super Bowl with the Eagles and the Chiefs. And I'm gotta be honest. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. It feels like the Patriots. Like, I'm so over it. I wanted the Bills to win because we could have mixed it up. And honestly, I just feel bad for their asses. But like, and then half of me, like when I was watching the Bills game, I was like, low-key, I think I want to be a Bills fan.
Right. And I'm, as a Pittsburgh girl, can't stand the
Right.
Eagles. So it is a little fucking annoying. And I'm over the Chiefs. Like, I can't.
Like, we get it. You're dating Taylor Swift. You're winning.
It's so very clear. And I love Taylor Swift, but it's so very clearly push towards trying to get a larger audience.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, the NFL is so rigged.
No,
actually.
don't even get me started. I'm not allowed to talk about it.
It's crazy. They're so rigged.
Yeah.
If you're driving, throw that shit on cruise control.
If you got a glass, pour that shit up.
And let's get creepy.
Okay, Morgie, what do you got today? Before you crack into it, I'm going to crack into it.
What's that?
Patreon saw it first. We did a tester on Patreon. This is my
your
THC drink.
Your witty drink.
My weed drink. It's Southern Peach High Tea, THC infused. Saint IDES, I think. But I got to tell you guys, I've had 5 of these in the span of like 2 months. And every time I've had the best little buzzy high in the world. Tested out on Patreon to make sure I was able to do so. And what I determined from that is I need to start when I was in your story. So that way, like...
She's never going to finish her story today.
Oh, no, I definitely will finish my story today. But I have this. So let's go. I'm excited.
Okay, so today I'm covering a poltergeist. Is that how you say it? I always fuck this up.
Poltergeist. You said it right.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to jump right into it.
Let's get it.
In February of 1958, there was some weird shit going on in Long Island, New York. There was a family named the Herrmans, and they were dealing with these strange, unexplainable events in their house, and people started calling the spirit causing this chaos Popper. Oh. And you'll see why. So this is Popper's poltergeist.
What are poppers from Jump Street? Wasn't that like the drug that was on this?
Popper? Maybe.
Poppers?
Maybe. I forget.
I don't know. I can't remember that. Like, for some
movie.
reason, I just saw like Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill.
Right. That was such a great movie. Popper first made his presence known at about 3 p.m. on February 3rd, 1958. The Herrman family, which included parents James and Lucille and their 2 kids, also Lucille and Jimmy.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
keep
the 50s.
it in the family.
Yeah, it was the 50s.
Gotta keep
Lived
it
in
straight.
Seaford, New York, which was like a quiet suburb in Long Island, about 30 miles from New York City. Their house at 1648 Redwood Path was a very typical 1950s ranch-style home, built in 1953, and it had 3 bedrooms, a bathroom, a kitchen, a small dining room, living room, basement split into a utility room and a playroom. So 1950, I don't know if they're the ones that built it, but this happened 5 years later, so I'm assuming they probably built the home. The neighborhood was very peaceful, very conservative. They had parks, tree-lined streets, basically the last place that you would expect anything like this to happen. That day, February 3rd, seemed like any other to Lucille. It was cold outside, and Lucille, who was a registered nurse, had just gotten home to greet her kids, Lucille, 13, and Jimmy, 12, after school and get dinner ready. Everything seemed normal until it wasn't. Soon after the kids had entered the kitchen, things went crazy. In just a few seconds, bottles of liquid all over the house started popping their caps.
Oh my God.
And shaking around.
No
one saw the bottles actually move or explode, but everyone heard the caps pop off and liquid started spraying everywhere. They later found this open bottle of bleach in the basement, a bottle of liquid starch in the kitchen, bottles of shampoo and medicine in the bathroom, and even a bottle of holy water that was in the master bedroom lying on its side with everything inside of it spilled on the ground.
That's crazy.
And all of the bottles had twist off caps. So it wasn't something that just like if some, you're not on an airplane.
Right.
Like the house didn't depressurize. Like these were twisty caps.
Yeah, there's like no, how would you even explain that?
Pop.
Right.
So yeah, it was nothing that could have come loose by accident. Mrs. Herrman was like very fucking confused. So she calls her husband, who worked for Air France out of New York City, and told him about these strange popping sounds and like the liquid spraying everywhere. And he's like, did you want me to come home? And she's like, no, well, I don't know. I mean, like, it was weird, but like, that's the first time anything like that has ever happened.
Right.
No one was hurt, so I guess you're good to stay at work. So he does not leave work early that day. Since none of the kids were hurt, his wife wasn't hurt, and it was just like an unusual occurrence. That night, he took the train back to Long Island after work and got home just before 7 p.m. On the ride home, he thought about his wife's call, and he kind of thought that he had it all figured out. He thought maybe it was some sort of chemical reaction in these products that had caused the lids to pop off. And the fact that it all happened at once was maybe just a coincidence. Maybe it was just too humid in the house. And again, he didn't know the situation. He didn't know that it was a bottle of bleach, holy water. He just knew that she's like, there's popping sounds and liquid was spraying everywhere.
Right.
Like all the bottles just opened up. So like he might have thought it was a case of Coca-Cola.
Right.
You know, like he wasn't
that was
aware
like shaken up or
what
dropped.
was going on when he was coming to these conclusions.
And you said it was February?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the reason, like logical reason, is like if it was super cold, you know how like sometimes like carbonated things.
And then the house got real hot. Like they turn the heat on.
Yeah, and they turn the heat on and just like poof. But no, that's not even, it doesn't even work here because it's
Yeah.
shampoo.
So he's running with this theory that it was some sort of chemical reaction that had to do with the heat and the cold and the temperature. But as soon as he got home and he checked these bottles, he was stumped because they were all screw-on lids, like I said, and they were all different types of products in the bottles. After a couple days, nothing else had happened. The family decided that it was just one of those weird things. So 2 days go by, and it was to the point where they almost like forgot about the bottles popping in general. And it was Thursday around the time the kids got home from school, and it happened again. This time, about 6 bottles popped open. Nail polish, rubbing alcohol, bleach, detergent, starch, and even again the holy water bottle on Mrs. Herrman's dresser. It was almost exactly like what had happened before. And on Friday night, it happened again. But this time when the bottles started popping, James Herrman thought that he figured out who was behind it. He's like, I know what's going on. Like, enough of these games. He suspected that his son, who was a very like sciencey kid, he loved everything about science. He loved experiments. He loved, you know,
This
like,
little fucking
like
kid.
the erupting volcanoes. Like that was his shit.
Yeah.
So he was like, my science loving son. I know this is New York and it's not.
He doesn't sound like
Southern
that, but he
accent,
might, you know.
Probably set these bottles up to pop and scare the family. And he thought maybe his son had put some sort of like fizzy capsule, like a Mentos mint in these bottles and timed it so that he could get home from school and see his mom's like reaction. Like, oh my God,
this kid needs to go to freaking Harvard.
Everything's popping. So James Herrman spent the whole weekend watching his son, Jimmy. He was sure that his son was somehow messing with the bottles. But on Sunday morning, February 9th, he was shocked when bottles of starch, turpentine, and turpentine, that's it, and holy water suddenly popped their caps and started rocking on the shelves. I don't know why I can't talk today. Like basic words. Caps, son, I can't even say this.
Hey, try to say Reader's Digest and we'll talk. Reader's Digest.
James Herrman had been keeping such a close eye on Jimmy, so he in his head is like, okay, how could he have done that without being caught? Like I've been on his ass. My son, seriously. He was confused, he was frustrated, so he stormed into the bathroom where Jimmy was just there innocently brushing his teeth, and he starts yelling at him that he needs to stop messing with the bottles. He's making a mess. Like, enough of your games, enough of your science experiments, like we're over it. But Jimmy's like, Dad, what are you talking about? He quickly denied it, and just as James was about to argue with him, he watched as a bottle of medicine slid across the bathroom sink and drop into the sink bowl. Then a bottle of shampoo slid off the counter and hit the floor. He still wasn't convinced, so James Herrman decided that he was going to search the bathroom for any sort of hidden wires or strings, but he found nothing. Poor little Jimmy was innocent.
I got to tell you, imagine a 1950s New York man
sick of these
busting
games.
in on you while you're brushing your teeth and like threatening the hell out of you. And it's your dad who has beat your ass so hard before that you know what he's
in the
capable.
midst of yelling, he washes a shampoo bottle.
And he's like, where the fuck is the wire?
Yeah, he's still not convinced. He's like, no, I know you did it.
That would be like literally my worst nightmare.
Yeah. And this is when James Herrman finally realized that there was something happening in his house that he just couldn't explain. Not knowing what else to do, he called the Nassau County Police and spent a while trying to convince Lieutenant Richardson, who was the officer who answered the phone call, to take him seriously. And at first, the lieutenant thought that he was like either playing a prank on him or that this guy's drunk. He's been drinking. Like what do you mean popping bottles all over the house and liquid flying around? Like, what are you even talking about? That's not a crime here. Get off my line.
Get the fuck off my line.
But he eventually realized that this was not the case after hearing how serious Mr. Herrman was sounding in that moment. Like, he was scared and he wanted some help. It also helped that James Herrman was a very well-respected individual in the community. So Lieutenant Richardson agreed to send someone to check it out. And this someone was Officer James Hughes, who arrived at the Herrman house very skeptical, probably wondering how he ended up getting this case in his hands anyway.
He's like, this guy.
He's like, what do you mean? I have to go. I'm getting dispatched.
I gotta go
house.
fucking
Are
get
you fucking
dispatched to
kidding
this
me?
house. It's 1958.
Yeah. But his doubts went away when he walks in through the doors and several bottles in the bathroom, and he's like investigating, walking through the house, and several bottles in the bathroom popped their lids and shot the liquid towards him.
Oh my God.
Realizing something unusual was going on, he called for further investigation. And this was Detective Joseph Tozzi, who was brought in and reviewed Officer Hughes's report, and though wasn't really ready to jump to any conclusions, he suspected that no, there's got to be a natural explanation or some sort of possible human involvement. So on February 11th, Detective Tozzi began his investigation. That evening, while he was there, they called it a perfume atomizer, which is like, I think the old like glass, like with the puff balls.
Yeah,
like
oh my God, I love those. My grandma has a
don't-
bunch of those.
I never would have thought they were. I think that's what it is.
I mean,
that's
that
what I
sounds
assumed. I didn't even
right.
look it up. I was like, oh, I know what that is. The 1950s perfume. So a perfume atomizer in the daughter's bedroom spilled, even though nobody was there. And then over the next few days of his investigation, strange events were focused solely on the bottle of holy water in the parents' bedroom. Over the course of those few days, the lid popped off several times. And at one point, Mr. Herrman, who was like sitting on the couch, just trying to, relax in his popping household, when he heard a lid pop off, and he sprinted into the bedroom to find the bottle, the holy water bottle, lying on its side, spilled, but also very hot. Like the bottle was hot to touch.
No, that gave me chills.
Yeah. Later that day, on February 15th, things took another strange turn. While the Herrman children were watching TV with their cousin, whose name was Marie Murtha, there was this like porcelain figurine on an end table, and it suddenly began to shake like vigorously.
No.
And then it flew 2 feet through the air, crashing to the floor.
Porcelain.
And to everyone's surprise, the figurine was unharmed. It wasn't cracked, wasn't chipped, wasn't shattered. Like
That's supernatural.
That's supernatural.
I had plenty of, I know I'm a psychopath. I loved porcelain dolls, and my grandma would always get them for me. I had one. Her name was Winnie. I love her to death. I still have her. And one day I'm walking through the house with her. God forbid, I got a little too close to the doorway. Her whole fingers fell off. All of her fingers fell off. We had to glue them back on.
Also, during this time too, like during the investigation, I didn't put this note in here because Detective Tozzi was like doing all sorts of like background work where he was like reaching out to the Air Force, seeing if there was any sort of sonic booms going on, or like all sorts of like crazy like scientific like explanation, and everyone's like,
earthquakes.
No,
Yeah,
there's nothing. There was no earthquake. There was no.
And now we have drones.
God,
they'd be rolling over.
After this, the Herrman family, they were still very desperate for answers, so they reached out to Father William McLeod from the Church of St. William the Abbot. And the Herrmans, they were devout Catholics, so they hoped that the church could help in return of being devout Catholics. Like, come help us out.
Holy water that keeps magically getting refilled between every spilling session.
Yeah.
I gathered.
They were going, I know. Wednesday night, Sunday night, Monday night,
any
Tuesday
mass,
night,
like,
any mass, they were there.
Anytime those doors are open, they're in there thanking
the
God.
holy water fountain at the Catholic church where you dip your hands in, they're filling up their bottle every day. So they hoped that the church could help. Father McLeod did visit the house, and he walked around and he sprinkled holy water in each room, but nonetheless, he thought that there was nothing going on in the house. Like, he didn't feel anything, nothing felt off to him. So unfortunately for the family, Father McLeod leaves the house and says that whatever was going on, you know, it's done. So Popper, is that what you call him? Popper?
It's done.
Popper's gone. You guys are safe. I sprinkled holy water in every single room, every corner, every doorway. Like there's nothing around here. But that was not the case. In the 2 weeks since Popper first appeared, news of this strange event in Long Island began to spread quickly through newspapers, radio, TV, even making it into Time and Life magazines.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The Herrman family, already dealing with broken items and flooded floors.
Literally.
With bleach and starch and nail polish
bowing.
remover. Oh, yeah, for sure. Now had to face the constant media attention. Their house was surrounded daily by reporters, photographers, visitors, and a lot of recording equipment. And eventually they started to get used to the attention, but they weren't prepared for like some of the oddities that really came with this mass media attention. They received letters and phone calls every day. Some were trying to offer logical solutions, while others were suggesting wild theories like Martians landing nearby, or it's the ghosts of an old Native American chief haunting the house.
Jesus.
Or even that it's Russian spies tunneling under Long Island.
Look, okay, I would give them that one, honestly, is the most logical. There was literally a case that I don't know if I covered it or as a mini on a Patreon. I've covered it before, but remember it was the wife or the girlfriend, or she was like an actress or something, and she was driving back and forth the same way, and she was like, every day at this time when I'm on this side of the road and on this spot in the road, I can hear my radio changes and I hear men talking. And
I don't remember that.
I don't know if I ever covered it, but it was a case.
A TikTok video.
Maybe it was a TikTok, but let me tell you, if I need to figure out what it was, but she was like, I was driving back and forth, and everyone thought she was crazy. So she loaded up everyone in her car, took them out there. They heard it. The cops come out. They put their the geoscope, the stethoscope that goes into those sewer systems on the ground because it can hear underground. You can hear pipes if they busted down there. There was an entire underground ring of Russian spies that had like offices and boarding rooms and shit down there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so like I can give that one.
So they're underneath.
That
and
one's the most
basically
logical.
they're like, hey, change the pressure a little bit and above us.
Let's use the hydraulics
The
on
poor
this house.
Hermans.
Literally.
Get them up there. Have you seen, speaking of radio stations, the one in Alabama right now?
No, what's going on?
It's like the last couple weeks. I forget what the station. It's like 97.1 or something like that. And it's constantly playing Blank Space by Taylor Swift, but it's like slowed down, like constantly playing. Like it hasn't stopped. No one's changed the station. And it's not like an actual like radio station. It's just one of those ones when you're like scanning through, it like stops you, and it's slowed down, and in like between like there's certain pieces where you can hear like Russian speaking like words. Like someone is speaking Russian through this station.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's been all over my TikTok.
I don't know if it was Memphis, but I did see that. I want to say it was Memphis.
With the drones.
No, what's that?
Like whenever the drones came out, like not that they're gone, but whenever they became really popular, like sensational all over TikTok, there was stations in Memphis that were slowing down. And people, when they would drive under the drones, their stations would slow down.
That's crazy. No, I think it was Memphis, but there is this like very popular news station, and people that work night shifts that are driving around at night, they have been reporting that between like where the commercials would typically be or like the host would be on there talking, it's like a government recorded like warning or like not like the, hey, this is a test for the Tennessee, like we normally not like that. It's like
the beep, beep,
this
beep.
is a U.S. government. This is the United States government reporting that, like, that's what it says. And it could be Memphis. This could be like a fucking scam on TikTok. But
yeah.
I haven't seen that one. I hadn't heard about the Alabama one.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you'll have to look that one up. And all the comments were like, holy shit. Like, I live near here. I just turned the station to that. It's still playing.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Freaky. But not all of the lellers
are not you drinking this like through.
I don't know what's wrong with me right now.
We Freaky Friday.
I didn't have a coffee. My coffee was, well, I did have one. It just wasn't good.
Okay. Well, that takes away half of its potency, I must say.
I agree.
Yeah.
Not all the letters and visitors were easy to deal with for the Herrman family. Some letters were full of like barely legible rants accusing the family of inviting Satan's tricks.
Oh my God.
And, you know, like threatening stuff like this family's filled with Satan, someone's possessed, yada, yada, yada. As well as like ministers from different religious groups who would show up on their like front lawn and like perform these rituals. And like one guy came and like knelt down and like had like some sword and like placed his hands on the ground and like stuck the sword in the ground and then stood up. And meanwhile, news crews were there, right? And like turned around and was like, this home is now cleaned of Satan. And like left. So like there was some like weird shit going on. Like not only
ritualistic
people
shit.
were trying to help out. A lot of the people were like, you guys should try this, you should try this. But anyway, Detective Tozzi's case file just kept growing as he was adding notes, research, details from his investigation, calling the Air Force and being like, do you guys have a sonic boom going on? So Detective Tozzi started like focusing in on Jimmy. And one day while walking down to the basement with Jimmy, who's the youngest son, there's only one son, the youngest child, there was a nearly 100-pound bronze horse statue that flew across the room and hit the detective in his legs.
Oh, wait. Whoa.
Yeah.
Did it break him?
I guess not.
I guess not.
Maybe they slowed it down, just gave it a little tappy
Just a little tappy tap.
At the time, Jimmy wasn't anywhere near the statue, and there was no one else down there with them. On February 20th, things got even more violent. There was a figurine that was smashed against a desk, a bottle of ink popped its cap and was like splashing all over the wall, and a sugar bowl flew off the table right in front of Detective Tozzi. So like now the detective is like really like, okay, this is escalating. Like we need to get you guys some more help. The Herrmans decided to spend the night with a relative to get away. They were kind of over it. And so Detective Tozzi was like, well, you guys can go, but I'm going to stay because I'm addicted now.
Yeah.
I need to know what's going on.
I am now been attached.
I'm fully involved. I'm deep dove into this.
The department's like, we're not paying you for the hours that you're spending
like you're
there.
Gonna stay there, that's fine, but you're off the clock.
We're not paying you. And he's like, okay.
The night passed by pretty quietly, but when the family returned the following day, the sugar bowl that flew off the table the night before, that when the family was still there, flew off the table again and shattered. On February 24th, best day ever, Detective Tozzi was startled by a loud noise that was coming from Jimmy's room. No one was in there, but there was a large bookcase that had fallen face first onto the floor. The next night, while Jimmy was at the kitchen counter doing some homework, his record player lifted up and moved 15 feet across the room.
Oh my God.
In the master bedroom, there was a small statue of the Virgin Mary, and they watched as it flew over 12 feet and smashed into the mirror. And a bookcase filled with encyclopedias and like other really heavy books. I want to emphasize the encyclopedias because we know how fucking heavy those bitches are.
Yeah.
Was knocked over, and then a heavy glass centerpiece flew from the dining room table, knocking into a cupboard before falling to the floor. Like so hard that it actually chipped the cupboard.
Oh my God.
Like the shit was being thrown.
Yeeted.
Detective Tozzi had explored every possible explanation, but he was all out of ideas. And while he wasn't ready to call the house haunted, he just couldn't explain what was happening. So around the same time, researchers at Duke University's Parapsychology Laboratory, which was led by Dr. J.B. Ryan, which we've talked about before previously, heard about the Herrman home and took some interest in it. The team had already gathered evidence suggesting that some people could influence objects without touching them, what they called psychokinesis, which we also hear a lot in paranormal stories. And as the disturbances continued and even escalated, Dr. Ryan's assistant, Dr. J. Gaither Pratt, visited the Herrman house on February 26th. So remember, this all started on February 2nd. Like this is all still within 1 month. Dr. Pratt believed that someone in the house was unknowingly causing these strange occurrences. Other researchers, however, started to think that the events may be caused by a poltergeist or a nosy spirit, particularly after the incidents with religious items like the holy water and the Virgin Mary statue. But at the same time, there was really strong evidence pointing to a human cause behind the disturbances. Duke researchers had noticed that the poltergeist activity often involved an adolescent, usually a girl living in the house, and they theorized that these young people might unknowingly cause the strange events due to psychokinesis, which is particularly during puberty. Now, again, this is the 1950s, and this is Duke's parapsychology program. I don't know if we've really deep dove into it, but that would be a good case because they were a little...
They were a little cuckoo.
Yeah. But in the Herrman case, in this particular case, it was actually Jimmy. So they're saying that usually it's a little girl an adolescent girl that's doing this stuff. But in the Herrman case, it was actually Jimmy who was present over 75% of the disturbances, often being the only witness for a lot of them, leading them to believe that Jimmy was our culprit. However, Detective Tozzi had ruled out the idea that Jimmy was deliberately causing the events. You don't think Detective Tozzi thought of this?
He's fucking sleeping there, bitch.
He was like, no,
absolutely not.
I already thought of that.
Take your fucking Duke degree, shove it up your ass, come back and try something new.
So Detective Tozzi's like, yeah, no, it's not Jimmy, but you guys can come, you can do whatever you want to do. So like everyone else before him, Dr. Pratt was very warmly welcomed into the Herrman home. Matter of fact, they were so welcoming to anybody who like wanted to help them and step in. He explained that he was there as an observer, and he spent most of his time talking to Jimmy, and he did it kind of nonchalantly, playing cards. He'd help him out with the homework and just keep him company. During this visit, everything was calm and Popper was completely quiet. Dr. Pratt then called in another colleague from North Carolina named William Roll. Together, they interviewed the family and were convinced that no one in the household was faking the events. Quote, the family was much too shaken for it to be a colossal hoax, Dr. Pratt told a reporter. For the next few days, things stayed quiet as though Popper didn't want to show off for the scientists. And you see that also a lot of times in Poltergeist where like these paranormal like researchers come in or like and they like don't act up because they
people
know.
that aren't mediums like that can't actually see.
Right. I mean, we see that all the time also, and I know this is controversial, but in a lot of like the Warren stuff.
I was about to say, yeah.
So Popper's pretty quiet when these Duke people come in. But on March 2nd, 1 month after Popper first appeared, the strange events started again. This time, all of the Herrman family members were there to witness it. There was a dish that flew out of the kitchen cabinet and shattered on the floor, followed by this night table flipping over in Jimmy's room. Popper was back, but still, no one could explain who or what he was. Then 2 days later, there was a bowl of flowers that slid down the dining room table, jumped up into the air. At the same time, a bookcase in the cellar, like they hear a loud boom downstairs, and it's a bookcase in the cellar that had flipped over.
Oh my God.
Also, so many bookcases in this house.
Yeah, like these
very
people must
educated.
be very, very, very smart, you know?
Well, the kid was a science guru.
Yeah, he was.
Popper's final performance came on March 10th while Mrs. Herrman, Jimmy, and Lucille were getting ready for bed. And the dad, James Herrman, was away on business. Dr. Pratt and William Roll were also at the house during this time, and they suddenly heard a loud popping sound from the cellar, and they rushed downstairs to investigate. They found the basement empty, and a bleach bottle sitting in a cardboard box had somehow lost like its plastic lid. Like that was the popping sound. And that incident was actually the last of the Herrman family's poltergeist experience. Between February 3rd and March 10th, there was 67 recorded disturbances in the house. Despite visits from detectives and inspectors and electricians and parapsychologists and poor Dr. Tozzi or Detective
and
Tozzi.
Ministers shoving swords into the ground.
Yeah, and ministers from different religions shoving swords into the ground. And even some oddball theories from the public, no one could offer a solid explanation for what happened in the Herrman house. Even weeks later, experts were still trying to figure it out. But by August of 1958, the scientists at Duke University still had no answers. By then, the Herrmans were done with the investigations and they just wanted to live their lives, or they just wanted their lives to return to normal. James Herrman didn't really care about the cause anymore. He was just relieved that it was over. No one knows why the poltergeist stopped. Mrs. Herrman told an Associate Press reporter, quote, "I don't think there ever was going to be a definite solution. It was just one of those things with no rhyme or reason to it, but there was a definite physical force behind it." So that's the Popper poltergeist.
It literally sounds like not necessarily residual, but it's similar to a residual haunting where it's like the ghost goes around and can fuck with shit within your realm, but you can't see them. And they're not necessarily
and like
demonic.
And oftentimes in poltergeist too, you see like behavioral changes.
Yeah.
Especially with the kids with the psychokinesis.
Smells, knocks at 3 a.m, banging
exactly.
on the door.
Like it was nothing like that. I mean, there was
No.
definitely some like the Virgin Mary and the holy
Yeah, but
water.
I feel like that's just like the thing fucking with them.
Right. And also Catholics in the 50s in New York, your whole house is decked out in
got crucifixes above every door.
Exactly. And that wasn't necessarily for protection. That was the decoration style.
Yeah, that was
like
just,
that's what they did.
Yeah.
So maybe that was the only kind of figurine they could throw off the wall because
that's the only thing that was on the wall.
That was the only thing that was on the wall.
Right.
And besides a bookcase with encyclopedias and probably Bibles.
And they don't worry, they took care of all those bookcases.
Yeah. So, okay, I found one source on here that said that this use, I don't know how to say this, correctly, because I don't even know if it's true, because I looked and I looked and I looked and I didn't fucking find anything, but they say that there was a film crew that came in during this month and they were the first paranormal family or first paranormal case of reality television.
Oh.
And that like Popper the Poltergeist was like acting a fool like on TV. So a lot of people think that this was a giant hoax because, okay, how quickly, and I mean in 2025, how quickly does a reality television come to you with a prompt, and how quickly does it get recorded, and how quickly does it get fucking years? It takes years to record and produce and publish and edit and put out.
Yeah.
So how could something like that happen so quickly within a month? Because the haunting was only for 30 days.
Right.
So a lot of people think that this was like someone's idea of like a film crew was, what do I want to say here? Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Well, like people thought that this was just like the doings of obviously reality television, and they had approached the family prior and they like set up all this shit. And that's what it was on television. But I didn't see a single fucking clip.
See, what I feel like with the reality is like the fact that there was all these cameras outside all the time filming them. So maybe they did pick up like something.
Right, and there was one like photographer or someone out there with a camera that caught like an orb.
Oh, God.
Right.
Not an orb, bitch.
And out, you catch an orb every time you take a picture outside.
Let me tell you something. I'd be catching orbs.
Yeah.
And,
so,
and half of them I'm like, okay, that's something. And the other half I'm like, that's a speckle of dust.
So maybe you're right. Maybe it was just like news crews and like shit was happening like maybe in the background of the house.
They're like reporting on it live.
And that was their version of reality TV. Like, I don't know why they were like dubbing it like this, but almost every source was like the first paranormal reality television show. But like... wasn't like that.
I guess maybe because it was followed from beginning to end. Like, sorry, I was like joking. By the news stations. Maybe that's why it's like that. Because was there any reality TV?
Right. No.
You know, like when,
like wasn't, and maybe I'm mistaken, but like wasn't that the silent film era? Like I don't know. Like did we even have like broadcasting news in the 50s, like with camera? Motion picture? Yeah,
because 1930s was when was it 1930s when the Wizard of Oz came out and it was the first one in color?
Almost 100 years ago.
Let me Google it. And that same day, the day that they got, okay, this is my favorite video to watch, but there is the recording of the first news station that ever got colored TV, and they went from black and white to, you seen it? Yeah. The two men reporters?
Yeah.
Anchors. Okay, let me see. The Wizard of Oz.
Because, like, yes, in studio, that's a little different.
1939.
I guess maybe it's possible because that's like in studio live television.
Yeah.
Like to take a camera and to be live broadcasting outside someone's house, like that's kind of...
Well, God, they had to have because they were reporting on scenes and stuff. So it was all satellite.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't know how they figured that out, to be quite honest. I struggled today. You know, going live is a struggle.
Yeah.
Trying to get that connection.
Fingertips.
Literally, we can report live from anywhere at any time, and today anyone can.
That's crazy.
No, that should be. I don't know. I guess it's our rights. Okay,
that should be illegal.
I'm just saying, like it's just. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah, we do like it though.
I love a good live. You know how many concerts I've watched on a live?
Me too. I watched the whole Eras tour live.
Literally.
Thank you for those people.
Thank you, God.
Mama wasn't paying $4,000.
And back before Logan would let me get YouTube TV, I would be watching like, you know, the news on there. I'd be watching.
True.
Yeah, I'd watch everyone on there.
I think that's like copyright infringement, maybe.
No, it 100%. It's like you're telling me that I could sit here and watch all of Good Morning America live, but I can't like have a song on in the background without it getting shut down for copyright.
There was an account that I found maybe like right around like when Wicked came out, and it was like, here's what I'm going live with tonight. 6 p.m. Wicked, 10 p.m. and like they were at the movie theater just like this going live.
Let me tell you something.
Like they're
doing the Lord's work.
That's pirating. It's so illegal.
It's so illegal. But like we shouldn't have to pay $1 million to go to the movie theaters.
Maybe.
Right. It's too expensive these days, huh? All right. Well, I finished my drink. And
I was like, did you have two? But
that's the one from Patreon. I haven't thrown it away. Will I throw it away?
Probably not.
We'll see. Logan's gonna come out here and be like,
I have to pee. So do you
I have to pee too. Okay, cool. So I would like to hang up. Hang up on you guys. We'll be right back. 1 second. Okay, guys, we're back, and
What you got?
I've got also
What you really got over there, little contraption?
I rednecked the hell out of a contraption with a tripod for our camera. I duct taped a desk iPad stand onto it, put my iPad on it. And
How are you gonna scroll?
you know what? I forgot to get my pencil, so give me 2 seconds. Let me grab my iPad pencil.
Yeah, you just need a little extra reach.
Yeah, just like a little reach.
You should get one of those things that like extends.
No, literally. Imagine if we had like a whiteboard behind us. Are you kidding me?
Oh,
that'd be so fun. Okay.
We should, and just like do presentations.
We really should. And you'd think with the amount of start and stops that you saw on our Google Docs today that I wouldn't have time to build this contraption, but I made time. I had to make time for it. Okay. I already said this to Morgan, but like in some ways, though being completely different, this is like part 1700 of a case that we've been covering for years now, which will make sense here in a bit. But I'm just going to jump right into it. So it's approximately 5:30 a.m. on Thursday, December 30th, 1999, when a local man is driving down the road and he sees this house engulfed in flames in their small town of Welch, Oklahoma, and he calls 911. Now, this house was located about 10 or so miles outside of the main city, and I say that loosely, of Welch, in a very, very, very rural area that truly feels like the middle of nowhere. Welch is pretty much in the upper far right corner, so the northeastern upper corner of, I guess that's where northeastern would be, of Oklahoma, and was formerly a big mining town. It's approximately 8 miles south of the Kansas state line and sits at the intersections of state highways 2 and 10 and then US Highway 59. Like I said, it's a very, very small town. The total area is simply just 0.51 square miles, and the population in 2020 was 622.
That's a small town.
Yeah, and that actually is some pretty big growth since the 1990 census, which has just 499 residents. And then the 2000 census showed a growth of 19.6% with a whopping total of 597 residents.
And that's a mining town for you.
Yep. And I tell you all of this to explain how and why both the driver that spotted the fire and called it in and the first responders that rushed to the scene knew whose house this was. Welch was, and probably still is, with 622 people in it, and everyone knows everyone type of town. And this house that was on fire was the home of the Freemans. The Freeman family consisted of 40-year-old Danny, his wife, 37-year-old Kathy, and their 2 children, daughter, 16-year-old Ashley, and son, Shane, who would have been 18 in 1999, but almost a year prior, on January 8th, 1999, he tragically passed away. So 5:30 a.m., Welch, Oklahoma, driver spots the Freeman's house engulfed in flames, calls 911. Firefighters rush to the scene, arriving there just minutes later and extinguishing this blazing fire. But with this being a mobile home, it essentially was rubble by the time they got it out. Pretty quickly, investigators were summoned to the scene, as this was very clearly a case of arson and a recovery at this point for the people that they knew would be inside, because none of the family members were standing out there. Danny, Kathy, their daughter Ashley, and Ashley's best friend Laura Bible, who was also 16. She had spent that night at Ashley's house in order to celebrate Ashley's 16th birthday, which was only just the day before the 29th. The two of them had been best friends since kindergarten. While searching inside the home, they located the charred remains of 37-year-old Kathy Freeman lying on the floor of her and Danny's bedroom beside their waterbed. And it was abundantly clear that she had been shot in the head execution style prior to the fire breaking out, which would later be confirmed via autopsy. However, they were unable to locate any other remains in the rubble, leading investigators to theorize that Danny had snapped, shot and killed his wife, abducted Ashley and Laura, and was now on the run with them. This was because, according to that chapter's reporting on YouTube, Danny was known to be someone with a massive temper, quick to anger, and had a history.
Charlie horse!
Oh my God, you scared the shit out of me.
Don't talk
Morgan.
to me. Oh.
Don't talk to me.
Oh, mother of pearl.
Get it out.
These bitches off.
You good now?
Backwards, but I'm better.
There we go. All right, we're back now. So Danny was the reason that investigators like immediately jumped to this conclusion that Danny had killed his wife and ran off with Ashley and Laura and set his house on fire was because he was known to be someone that had like a major temper. He was quick to anger and had a history of domestic trouble. Plus, allegedly, but not so much allegedly, he grew and sold weed. So they quickly sent out a bolo for Danny and the girls, setting up roadblocks around the area and asking if anyone had any information, and if so, to come forward. Here's the thing though. They didn't have a car to list in the bolo because in the driveway of the now burnt home sat both the Freeman's car and Laura's car. So how he would have gotten...
What are we boloing unless he's with someone?
Right. I guess just like be on the lookout for him and the girls, but they didn't have a car. So when investigators broke the news to Laura's parents, Lorene and Jay Bible, they could not even believe that Danny would do such a thing. Like, yes, he grew and sold weed, and yeah, he was known to have a temper and beat someone up at a bar or even his own stepdad outside of his house, but Danny loved his children and would do anything to keep them safe, especially after losing his son just not even a year prior. And Laura was honestly like his second daughter. I mean, he had known her since she was 5 years old, spent every birthday with his daughter, like they were pretty close, you know? Mm-hmm. They were distraught and began thinking of any and everything that they could as to where Danny could have taken them. But something just was not setting right with this story to the Bible family or the Freeman family. So much so that the next day, Friday, December 31st, 1999, they went to the scene of the fire, talking about Laura's parents and the surviving like uncle of the Freemans. The reason that they were able to go to the scene of the fire is because the police had released the scene just 8 hours after the discovery. So they start, looking for any clues or signs that could lead them to Danny, Ashley, or their daughter. And first thing that they notice is that her car was unlocked, like I said, sitting in the driveway with the keys in the ignition. So it just made no sense that they were going to flee. Why they wouldn't just like take her car with them? Mm-hmm. Then they began sifting through the rubble. And within 5 minutes, they made a horrific discovery when their Rottweiler sniffed his way over to an area, laid down, and began whimpering.
Oh, no.
Jay and Lorene made their way to the area, lifted up some of the rubble, and they saw it. It was another body, burned beyond recognition with, quote, no face, according to Lorene. But they knew exactly who it was because of a wire that was visible on the front part of the skull where a face would be. It was Danny, who had facial reconstructive surgery several years prior that left him with a wire in his nasal cavity, covered in boot marks from where investigators had literally walked on top of his body several times during their 8-hour search. They immediately backed away, called police, who rushed to the scene with the medical examiner. This body was quickly officially identified then as being Danny Freeman, and an autopsy revealed that he had also been shot to death at close range, execution style, with a shotgun similar to his wife, Kathy, meaning he was not behind this. He did not have the girls. He was not on the run. And police clearly did not do a good job at searching the scene, which is simply just the first of many fuck-ups that we are going to see in this case. Just go ahead. Let me preface this. They did nothing right.
Awesome.
They did absolutely nothing right.
He's just pissed.
I'm not shitting you.
What year again?
This happened in 1999. Okay. So it's December.
So I have no grace.
Yeah, 0. Period. Okay. Investigators did a second search of the rubble and were able to confidently, this time using canines, determine that there were no more human remains at the scene. In the second search, though, they were able to find other important clues. Firstly, they found Laura's purse, and inside was her wallet, driver's license, and $200 in cash. The second thing, though, is kind of more of what they didn't find, and this was Ashley's piggy bank that she had been using to save up for the last year to buy herself a car when she turned 16, which was just the day prior. Everyone in the family knew that she had been putting like every bit of cash that she got into this thing, so it was packed to the brim, and it was nowhere to be found, leading these dumb-ass investigators to believe that Ashley and Laura were the killers, and they were now on the run. These two 16-year-old girls, despite the fact that, don't you think that they would have, I don't know, maybe taken Laura's purse, wallet, ID, car? The $200 in cash, the fucking car.
Right.
Nope. Investigators believed that these besties were kicking off their criminal record with a big, massive bang, which obviously no one believed to be true other than investigators. Like I said in the beginning, Ashley and Laura had been best friends and inseparable since kindergarten. And their friendship was the true definition of opposites attract. Ashley was this tall, blonde, straight-haired, blue-eyed, athletic basketball player, where Laura was short, brown, curly-haired, brown eyes, cheerleader, always cheering on her bestie from the sidelines. And these two were each other's biggest fans. And to me, when I was researching this, all I could hear was that trend on TikTok right now that says, "She clapped so loud, I never noticed who didn't," and it shows like their best friend, and in the background plays the Barbie What Was I Made For instrumental music.
I haven't seen that yet, and I'm so glad because I'd cry.
No, it makes me sob. Like, makes me sob. These two went through everything together, you know, especially when Ashley lost her older brother. Like, you know, that's stuff that best friends help you walk through. And when you're 16 and 15, like, these are big life-altering events, and Laura was there with her through all of it. Mm-hmm. They were each other's keepers. They were sweet girls that had big dreams and found their forever best friends, not their legitimate partner in crime like police thought, though. One of the first things that investigators needed to know was exactly what the family had done the day prior. So Wednesday, December 29th, 1999. Now, with it being Ashley's 16th birthday that day, she invited Laura to come celebrate with her. They were going to go out for dinner with her parents, have some cake, and then have a sleepover. Laura asked her parents for permission. They agreed. However, Jay Bible, her father, told her that she would need to be home by noon on Thursday, December 30th. Laura agreed, thanked her parents, packed her bag, grabbed her purse, grabbed her keys, jumped in her car. She had just turned 16 April of that year, before hugging her parents goodbye and saying, "Daddy, I love you," as she walked out the door, jumped in her car, and headed over to the Freeman's house around noon. The girls hung out for a bit just in Ashley's house before heading out to dinner, probably getting ready together. You know, big 16th birthday, we got to get done up. Doing each other's makeup, doing each other's hair. They meet her parents, Ashley's parents, so Kathy and Danny, along with Ashley's boyfriend, Jeremy Hurst, at this like local pizzeria. They go get ice cream after which they return to Ashley's house, saying goodbye to Jeremy, and it's time for the girly sleepover. Upon hearing all this information about what they had done the day before, investigators couldn't find anything in their day that would have led to such a brutal and violent double murder and possible runaways / abduction. Who knows? According to the police, clearly, spoiler alert, they didn't run away. They interviewed several neighbors, family members, and friends, but no one heard or saw anything that night. And mind you, like I already said, they lived on, okay, I haven't told you this yet, but I'll break it to you now. They lived on 40 acres of land in the middle of fucking nowhere. It's giving Dardine.
Right. It's also how are they getting anywhere?
Right.
They don't have a car.
Right. Period. Exactly. There was one thing, though, that Danny's brother, so Ashley's uncle, Dwayne, could think of as a reason that someone would want the Freemans dead. But it wasn't anything that anyone would say to the faces of the Craig County Sheriff's Department investigators that were working the case, at least, because here's the thing. About 3 months prior, so September of 1999, Danny told his brother / best friend / closest confidant, quote, "If anything should happen to me, look into the Craig County Sheriff's Department," which has everything and more to do with the fact that it was one of their deputies that shot and killed their son, Shane, on January 8th, 1999.
Oh, shit.
So according to what I could find in this article from the Oklahoman and Unsolved Mysteries, Shane was shot and killed by a deputy on a rural road in Craig County, which is where Welch is located, beside a disabled pickup truck. Now, at the time of his murder, he was wanted by police. He was kind of like the kid that always just like getting into shit in this like really tiny small town. So like anytime anything happened, it was like, go get that Freeman kid, you know? Mm-hmm. Okay, so he was wanted by police at the time and believed believed to have been armed after allegedly stealing that pickup that was broken down, and a gun that was left inside of the car from their neighbor's house. The deputy claims that when he pulled over, he was just thinking that he was pulling over to help out this car that was disabled when he sees Shane. Obviously, he knows who Shane is. He knows once getting up and seeing the plates that this is a stolen truck, at which point he attempts to apprehend Shane, who resists and, according to the deputy, aims a handgun at the deputy. In self-defense, according to the deputy, he fires at Shane and shot him, killing him. According to the DA at the time, the autopsy findings were consistent with the deputy's story. However, there were 0 witnesses, and the family did not believe that this story was the whole truth. They were adamant that Shane would have never, if he had a gun, which, by the way, no one can say or prove that he actually had a gun on him, which I find crazy. So they couldn't prove that they had a gun on him, and they were adamant that Shane would, if he did have one, would ever raise his gun towards an officer, but instead just simply try to flee, as that's what his kind of like MO was. Like anytime he was getting caught for like any stupid thing he was doing, he was just a runner. Exactly. Which would align more with the fact that the gunshot wounds on Shane were not on the front of his body, like you would think if you're acting in self-defense because someone has a gun aimed at you. But instead, it was on his back and his side, indicating that he was attempting to flee at the time that he was shot. What added to their theories of the deputy's story not being the quote-unquote full truth was the fact that for years, this sheriff's department refused to release anything about his death to the family or to the public, claiming it's active. Because of this, the Freemans, but specifically Danny, his dad, planned to file, I don't want to say that he was harassing them, but like clearly he was up in their shit, being like, I want the documents. So finally he had had enough. In October of 1999, maybe even September, he had gotten everything together to file a wrongful death lawsuit against the department, despite it being ruled quote unquote justifiable by a judge, which is when he told his brother about being worried for his life. Like, if something happens to me, look at the Craig County Sheriff's Department. And instead of holding on to this information, Dwayne, Danny's brother, who was told this, went to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, the OSBI, and reported this going over the Craig County Sheriff's Department's head. Upon learning this information, the Craig County Sheriff's Department volunteered to remove themselves from the investigation and turned it over fully to the OSBI. Prior to this, they were just assisting them on the case, because obviously this is a much bigger case than a small little county sheriff's department can handle on their own, resources wise. Either way, they handed over completely to the OSBI, who then administered polygraphs on several deputies and even the sheriff himself from the department, who were later cleared. Now, this side investigation and change over to the OSBI officially, and not just in assistance at least, actually did something good though, and that was finally have investigators switch gears from looking at Ashley and Laura as suspects and instead actually believing that they were victims, which leads the OSBI to several suspects. One of the first being this guy named Stephen Ray Thacker. He was a serial killer that went on a spree in 3 different states, starting in Oklahoma, Bixby, Oklahoma to be specific, on December 23rd, 1999. He was arrested on January 2nd, 2000, and I'm going to actually be covering this case on our Patreon mini that's probably going to go out on Friday. But long story short, dude, honest to God, just went psycho. He, trigger warning, raped and killed a girl at random that was just trying to sell a pool table to him, then went on the run for 6 days, knowing that he was about to be caught because he used her credit card to buy his family Christmas gifts. He then, while on the run, killed 2 other guys, like one during a burglary, one when they realized that they were swiping a stolen credit card in Missouri and in Tennessee, in that 10-day time span. Now, let's just say that investigators once again got tunnel vision on him and did everything that they fucking possibly could to try and force these puzzle pieces to fit, but they simply did not. So pretty much they wasted all of their resources on him for months before deciding to move on. Meanwhile, as investigators are walking around with their foot up their asses, Lorene and Jay Bible were doing everything that they could with the help of Danny's brother Dwayne to find their girls. They began contacting all the local radio stations, news channels, newspapers in the area and asking them to run the case and ask for tips, which generated hundreds and hundreds of calls to flood in with people actually not having tips, but volunteering to help them in any way possible. Through this, the Bibles were able to organize a massive grid search of the families, the Freeman, the entire Freeman's property, which, like I said, was 40 acres, having very clear and cut guidelines for their search that was ran by themselves. That if you were to see or observe anything that looked suspicious or out of place or could possibly be connected, even if it's a piece of trash, they were not, the searchers, the volunteers, were to not touch it, but instead place a marker or a flag near it that they handed out and report it to them. At which point the family would call the OSBI, dumb fucks, to come down and collect it and then examine whatever it is that they found. But unfortunately, they did not find anything that was helpful, which was just another blow, because honestly, what the family was doing was trying to get the OSBI to formally file Ashley and Laura as missing people, because they were not filed as missing people, despite the fact that they had ruled out the possibility of the girls being the killers and literally were just working so hard to pin this on Thacker, yet they don't even have that the girls are victims.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they don't have a missing persons flyer, nothing. So
it's fucking ridiculous.
The Bibles, along with the help of the surviving Freeman family, flooded the town and the surrounding areas with missing posters, flyers. They hired PIs, they worked with local news stations, they organized more searches, as many as they could. They followed up on any and all leads that they had sourced themselves, but no matter what they did, this case was quickly going cold. And it truly felt like law enforcement was working against the families and not for them. That is until 2001, when a new sheriff took over and actually kind of gave a shit. Now, look, he begins looking, and I don't know if he actually gave a shit or if just like a bunch of random tips started coming in at a random time, but he begins looking into this like influx of tips that had come from the neighboring county of Ottawa County. That's the name of the county. I don't know why I worded it like that, but anyways, all of these tips centered around this New Year's Eve party for the big 1999 to 2000 switch at this.
The end of the year.
Yes.
The end of the world.
Yeah, the end of the world. So all these tips that they were getting in 2001 were about this New Year's Eve party. It was at this very well-known local Ottawa County meth den. It's where this, I don't know what they're doing.
Mining town.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So several people in attendance at this New Year's Eve party claimed that they had all physically watched a VHS tape of Laura and Ashley being tortured, tied up, bound to beds and chairs, and raped and abused. And it was,
oh my God.
I mean, I don't even want to go into the details, mainly because after several searches of multiple homes of people who allegedly were either at the party or brought this tape or saw this tape, they found no sign of this tape or no evidence that it even existed, which was equally as relieving as it was devastating, but at the same time hopeful, because obviously no one wants to find a tape of their 16-year-old daughter and her best friend in positions like that. But it would have been at least something. And that's kind of where the hope came in, because though it ended up being nothing, it breathed new life into this case. This activity very quickly picked up when a very notorious serial killer threw his own name into the mix. Someone we know very well at this point. Any guesses? Oh, Tommy Lynn Sells. Yep, same guy from Crystal Searles on that same New Year's Eve.
Train guy, right?
Train guy, Darting family admitted to it. They wouldn't let him go up there and search. We said that that's probably their best bet at who it is. He claimed full responsibility for the murders of Danny and Kathy and the kidnappings of Ashley and Laura. Now, here's the thing.
It's not his MO.
Well, kind of. I'll get into it. So, unlike the Darting family murder, this does eerily, because the Dartings really isn't similar to Crystal Searles, because he didn't kill the whole family in Crystal Searles' case. Okay, wait, where am I at? Okay, it shares many eerie similarities to the Crystal Searles case, because he only targeted Crystal and her best friend Katie, whose house they were at. He left without harming anyone else because no one woke up. But let's say someone in that house had woken up. And many people believe that this is probably how Tommy Lynn Sells would have handled it. However, he never really took victims to a second location. But here's the other thing though. He attacked Crystal and murdered Katie on December 31st in Del Rio, Texas, 1999. So the very next day after the house was found burning, at 5:30 a.m., he came into the house, or Crystal also woke up on the top bunk and saw him attacking Katie in the floor at around 3:30 a.m. Now the early morning hours of December 31st in Del Rio, Texas. Technically, it's a 10 and a half hour, almost 12-hour drive depending on which route you take. So he could have gotten there, but he was arrested at his home either on the 1st or 2nd of January 2000, and there was no evidence or signs that tied him to Ashley and Laura at the time that he was arrested. Though he claimed that he dumped Laura and Ashley's bodies on the side of a rural road in Oklahoma on his way back to Texas. When investigators took him to that location, because the Texas authorities did allow him to go to Oklahoma, but didn't allow him to go to Ina, Illinois to
face trial or to be
able
interrogated.
to show to be able to show the investigators where he said he could do where he did it,
where he put the car body.
Yeah, apparently they did allow him to go to Oklahoma because of the really striking similarities in Crystal Searle's case and Ashley and Laura's case. But he went to the location. He's like, this is where I dumped him. They searched it, hardcore searched it. Nothing. So this was just another one of the over 70 additional crimes that he admitted to and was likely lying about as a copycat, like we discussed in 225 when covering the Dardines. Then just 4 years later in 2005, there was yet another self-confessed serial killer named Jeremy Bryan Jones from Miami, Oklahoma, who admitted to murdering Danny and Kathy and abducting Lauria and Ashley when he was arrested in 2004 after murdering a woman in Mobile, Alabama, along with confessing to murdering over 20 other people across 4 states. Like I said, his name was Jeremy Bryan Jones, who I will eventually cover, but he claimed that he had murdered the Freemans as a favor for a friend over a drug debt with Danny. He decided to take the girls with him to Kansas instead of killing them at the scene like Danny and Kathy, where he eventually shot and killed them and threw their bodies into an abandoned mine. Investigators searched this area, but there was nothing. He later recanted his confessions and admitted that he was doing it just for better privileges in prison, just like he had seen Sells do before him, which investigators figured out after realizing that he was actually arrested and put in jail that night that they were murdered for public intoxication at 4 a.m. and the fire was blazing at 5:30. So
okay, but his little his theory that he's working with kind of makes sense to me. Which I know one? That he's, cleared because
the mine
he was
shaft
fucking lying. No, that he did it for a friend who owed money.
To Danny.
He sold weed.
He sold and grew weed. So that is a good.
So if someone owed Danny money, didn't have it,
right,
their only response that they could think of
to go kill him because they're idiots.
Right. Which also, that same person would be more likely to go to a New Year's Eve party at a meth
and then
den.
Go show it at a meth den.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that theory that guy, I know he's lying, but
again, just like we were talking about with Tommy Lynn Sells, they can think of things that someone who
think like a killer
thinks like that
does. Because they're a killer.
Because they're killers. So they can do the thought process of it, which is kind of crazy and makes me question, Johnny Douglas, are you okay? Mm-hmm. Has anybody checked where he's been at or what he did during his time? Anyways, that's a joke. If you didn't get that, if you didn't get the sarcasm through the mic, that was a joke. Okay. They realized that he had been arrested that night at 4 a.m. for public intoxication. But I saw on a few sources that it actually wasn't law enforcement that put those pieces together, but instead it was the Bibles, Laura's parents, that figured out that he had been arrested and told police.
Oh my God. So
Literally.
They were letting him take it.
Yeah. And though these false confessions were a waste of time and fucking resources for investigators and a lot of hope for the families, it did do at least one good thing. And that was put the girls' case back on the map, back in the spotlight. It got their case on America's Most Wanted, on Unsolved Mysteries. And for the next 4 years, the case would go cold, but there were, people knew about it. Mm-hmm. The story was being ran. And with the 10-year anniversary coming up, there was a lot of hope that someone would finally be tired and be like, all right, it's been 10 years, I can come forward. Investigators released new information that had never been released to the public prior on the 10-year anniversary, looking for any information about 2 specific cars that had been seen in the area around the time that the fire was believed to be started at the Freeman Freeman house, and it was a small, quote, small dark-colored sedan and then a dark-colored pickup. Though tips did come in, investigators were truly just kind of left with nothing, except for one that concerned an old well on Danny's former best friend's property, and this guy's name was Charlie Critter. Now, he and Danny, they were doing business together. They were growing and selling weed together, and they were like besties. Mm-hmm. I think you could only grow and sell weed with your bestie.
100%.
You know, one thing about these two is, yeah, they loved each other, but they were both hotheads, leading many people to believe that maybe there could have been like a disagreement with their business, aka drug money problems. You know, Critter maybe snapped and killed his best friend and his entire family. Plus, it didn't help that by the 10-year anniversary of the murders and kidnappings, Charlie Critter, his bestie, was in prison for second-degree murder.
Oh.
Yeah, which is how they easily were able to obtain a search warrant, go search the property, search that well, but once again, nothing. After the passing of the 10-year anniversary of Danny and Kathy's murders and the disappearance of Ashley and Laura, the Bibles, Laura's parents, along with the surviving Freeman family, Dwayne, Danny's brother, began the heartbreaking task of having the girls legally declared dead, which they were able to do. And after all of the growing buzz and failed attempts to see through with new leads and tips, the case went cold once again. It's like the second they get it warm, it would just go back cold. It wouldn't be until 2017 that there was a break in the case. Now, everyone, hold on to your pants. I'm about to piss ya all off. Like, you're gonna be fucking livid. This shit made me so mad. I was fuming. I had to turn off my heater under my desk. Normally, I'm freezing up here. I was so mad. I was hot, physically hot. I just untied my shoe. Doesn't matter. I'm sitting down. Okay. It wouldn't be until 2017 that there would be another break in the case, when yet another new sheriff took over the Craig County Sheriff's Department, reopened the case, and uncovered evidence that had been in the department's possession and overlooked for 17 years, almost 20 years, Morgan. It was a box that was found within the case files, like within the main boxes, that was filled to the brim with evidence that had been given to them by the PI that the Bibles hired, including several items that they had actually found in the rubble of the Freeman's home that police essentially did not give a fuck about, since it wasn't them that found it. Since the PI found it, they were like, oh yeah, man, you don't think we fucking looked at it? Like, yeah. Now, of these items was an insurance card of a random person who did not live near or at the Freeman's home. It belonged to a woman who has never been named, from what I can find, that lived with a man named Warren Philip Welch, who went by Phil. And yes, his last name is literally the name of the town, but allegedly there's no relation. I find that very interesting, especially with like sheriff's department drama. Anyways, come to find out that when the Bibles found Danny's remains in the rubble, his cousin was also there on the scene with them, helping them look through it for other evidence. And he actually found the card that day. So this was on December 31st, the day after the fire. And the cousin hands this over to the investigators, and they literally said, like, oh, it looks like litter, and threw it back into the rubble, which is how about a week later, when the PI came and was hired, he found it. He reported this to the OSBI. They actually followed up with it by going to the woman's house, knocking on her door. They ask her, hey, we found this at a crime scene. She says, oh, that's my partner's card. He's on my plan. His name is Warren. So they're like, is Warren home? She's like, yeah, let me go get him. Warren comes out. He speaks with the OSBI detectives at his and this lady's house and is like, oh my God, how crazy. I've been looking for that. Like, how the heck did that end up there? And they were like, oh man, that's crazy. Well, we can't give it back to you, so you might want to get a new card. We got to keep it in evidence since it's found at a crime scene, but thanks, and left.
What the fuck?
So then, when it was found in 2017, I guess they announced that there was like a break in the case or concerning this card, which is when several people came forward and were like, hey, we've been sending tips to you about this guy since the house was found burned, but no one would talk to us. We've been reaching out to you for years and no one has responded to us, including the woman, the partner of Warren Welch, whose insurance card was found. So she finally, when I guess either they went to her or, they announced this, I don't know. She goes to police and was truly terrified for her life because she was positive, certain that Warren, or Phil Welch, her ex, was involved in the kidnappings. Essentially, a year or so after the murders and kidnappings took place, Warren had attacked her. She called police. He was arrested. He was put in prison for a few months. And during this time, she was like going through their home. I don't know if she was leaving. I don't know what the deal was, but she's going through their home and she finds this leather briefcase hidden like deep within his shit, like probably in his closet. She opens it up and inside are several, like hundreds of Polaroid pictures showing 2 teenage girls bound and gagged with duct tape on her and Warren's bed inside their home that she was standing in at that moment, with Welch, her partner, laying beside them. She recognized these 2 girls as being 16-year-olds Ashley Freeman and Laura Bible.
Oh my God.
Along with several other Polaroid pictures showing the girls bound and gagged to chairs, which eerily is similar to exactly what those people from that New Year's Eve party claimed to see on that VHS tape. Well, she hides this briefcase from him so that way whenever she can go, when she feels safe enough, she can go take this to police. But when Welch got out of prison, the second he got home, he immediately went to the closet and was looking for that briefcase. He realizes that it's gone. He grabs his girlfriend, threatens to kill her, and says, "I will hide your body by throwing it into that old mining pit, just like I did with the girls." He takes it from her. Out of fear for her own life, she hands it over, I guess. And these pictures were never, ever seen again. He then dies in 2007. However, the woman wasn't the only one that saw these Polaroids. And it wasn't just Warren that had them in his possession or had been in some of these pictures. At least 12 other people came forward claiming that they saw these photos with Welch and his 2 best friends, David Pennington and Ronnie Dean Busick, in them as well. Pennington had already passed away. He died in 2015, but Ronnie Busick was up and kicking. According to these witnesses, they saw the photos and they were told the story by either all or one of these 3 men. And they claimed that the story that they told was that on the night of December 29th, 1999, Welch, Pennington, and Busick pulled up at the Freeman's house to dispute some money issues that they were having. Apparently, Warren, so Welch, owed Danny a lot of money. And Danny had been threatening him in the days leading up to the murders, being like, "You better get me my fucking money." They got into the home where they shot and killed Danny and Kathy before abducting the girls at gunpoint, forcing them into their car and took them back to Warren Welch's trailer while his partner, this woman, was out of town. For days, they, quote, "had fun with them."
Oh, that makes me sick.
During this time, the girls were beaten, abused, sexually assaulted, raped, and tortured before being strangled to death by the men after they had escaped and were trying to run away but were caught. The men took their bodies and threw them into a, quote, pit or abandoned mine shaft in Pitcher, Oklahoma, which is Ottawa County, where those New Year's Eve meth den tips party came from.
And I'm assuming a mining shaft is a quarry.
Yeah, well, there it's like different.
Or probably a quarry now.
Right. So with the help of the sworn affidavit of Welch's former partner, this woman, and that had the insurance card, along with the several other, like I said, over a dozen witness accounts, in April of 2018, investigators were able to arrest the only surviving suspect, 66-year-old Ronnie Dean Busick, on all 4 counts of first-degree murder. Investigators attempted to locate the girls' bodies based off the information that he gave them, but it is believed that the shaft that they were dumped into was filled with concrete in the years in between. On July 15th, 2020, Busick pled guilty to being an accessory to the first-degree murders in the deaths of Danny and Kathy Freeman, along with arson and the abduction and presumed murders of Ashley Freeman and Laura Bible. Also admitting that he had withheld information about his involvement, along with the involvement of Welch and Pennington, for 17 years. Because of his cooperation, He was only sentenced to 15 years in prison, 10 to be served in prison, 5 to be on probation. Then he was off the hook.
The 17 years before weren't good enough for him.
Right.
Of being free.
The Oklahoma Department of Corrections reported that Busick was a level 4 prisoner, meaning that he was known for being respectful to staff, following orders, keeping to himself, and remaining non-problematic, for which he received 60 credits or months, which is 2 days worth of credit for every day that he served, meaning that he was released early on good behavior on May 19th, 2023, after serving only 38 months of his 10-year sentence. This was a gut punch to the family, surviving families of both the Freemans, but specifically Laura Bible's parents, Jay and Lorraine, who immediately got to work to ensure that no family would have to endure this pain again, lobbying to get House Bill 2946, or Laura and Ashley's Law, passed by State Representative Steve Bashor in February of 2024, which passed nearly unanimously. The bill closes the legal loophole that Busick used to get out early and requires offenders for a list of certain crimes, including, which it hadn't before, accessory to a murder, to serve at least 85% of their sentence before being eligible for early parole. And that is the case.
Wow.
I'm going to tell you one really fucking horrific fact, and then we can close out. But the Bibles refused to take down their Christmas tree because it was a tradition that they did every year where as a family they would put it up, and then as a family they would take it down. So they refused to put any of the ornaments away, take the tree down, and they kept it up until it literally fell apart in 2005.
Wow.
Just waiting for her
that
to
breaks my
come
heart.
home. Yep.
It's terrible.
And they still say that, yeah, you might have gotten one guy, but this isn't over because we don't have our daughter home.
Right. And also, like, if you saw these pictures, you're a fucking accessory and you didn't speak on it.
Yeah.
So, like, how many other people are out there? And also, not to mention, what the fuck was the police department doing?
Nothing. They weren't doing anything, Morgan. They
They're like,
literally pulled up at the house. At the house. Could have potentially been in the time frame that Laura and Ashley were in there.
Yeah. Wow, you're right. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
The FBI, too.
The OSBI. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Federal agents, though.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
Yep.
Not even local county.
Nope. Pulled up at the house. And then this pissed me off so fucking bad. In the articles that when this release came out in 2018 about the arrest, the new sheriff of Craig County Sheriff's Department, it's like, they've been on our list as suspects since day one. It just took getting the affidavit. I'm like, no, it took you guys giving a shit and looking at what the PI gave you, or giving a shit whenever the cousin handed that to you on the crime scene, you threw it back down in the rubble.
Right.
So no. They have not been suspects.
Yeah, you didn't know.
Since day one. You were not on this. You did actually fucking nothing, to be quite honest.
You actually fucked it all up.
Yeah. All you did was cause more drama.
I
liked reading it like this, Morgan. I gotta say, I think if we could get a remote.
A little scrolly scroll.
A little scrolly scroller. We might be able.
Could be.
I was on a roll.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Horrible case. Horrible case. I'm so tired of Tommy Lynn Sells. I don't want to hear him again. I don't want to hear about this motherfucker again. He's so annoying.
Like, just stay out of it. You don't have to be involved in everything.
You don't have to be.
You're fucking sick, a creep.
Yeah.
Stalker.
Then
train jumper.
when I was watching this, I think it's called That. Oh God, what was it? That Chapter. It's a YouTube channel that I credited earlier on in the case. When I was watching their coverage on it, first off, my man's I think he's like Australian, fired up that entire time, like making edits about making fun of the police. I mean, like, he's fired up, but where was I going with that? What were we saying?
You were watching the Australian guy.
He's like, we're talking about Tommy Lynn Sells.
It'll come to you. Anyways,
that was a good one. Like, that was he did like a really good coverage on it, but I don't even know what I was gonna say. I'm trying my best to make it.
I know. I'm just waiting for the.
Yeah, me too. I wish I could replay where my brain was going, but I can't. But I do like that, and I wouldn't mind to have it sitting down there. That's where I wanted to have it sitting, but I couldn't. You can't screen share from an iPhone to an iPad.
That's interesting. Why?
I don't know.
If I can do it everywhere else.
Why can't I do it to? It's like you can do it to your Mac. I'm like, well, I can't because my Mac is recording this.
Right.
So.
Not the laptop's about to come back out.
No, that's what I was thinking. That'd be nice.
No, I don't even have one because my little brother stole it.
Yeah, you're right. I have one. I don't think I've opened her since that day, and OGs will remember that she deleted everything. And I had to be on the phone with Jeremy or Jeff from Apple.
Never again.
For like 12 hours overnight. And he was telling me about his bachelor trip that he was going on with his buddy.
Never forget.
Never forget. He was from Canada.
Yeah.
I haven't opened her since then.
She probably won't even turn on.
I doubt it. Like, I think it would light on fire if I opened it up.
Well, thank you for your case.
You're so welcome. While I have you guys here, I wanted to talk about two things before we close this out. First off, I wanted to talk about just acknowledge the Antioch high school shooting that took place in Tennessee like 2 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
A week ago now. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Live streamed. Goes back to what we were saying about live streaming. Mm-hmm. It's terrifying.
Fingertips. The manifesto.
Yeah, the manifesto. I genuinely, I have no words, you know. I'm tired of this. I think we all are. And it's just getting closer and closer and closer to home.
Yeah.
Makes me sick. And then the second thing that I wanted to talk about was a case that is active, which you guys know I don't typically do, but this is actually a hometown case for me. And the victim and the suspect or offender were my neighbors growing up. So I want to just read you from News Channel 9 because I've seen like a bunch of shit going out on social media that's just incorrect. So I literally, true crime, this is my hometown, it's my neighbor, my former neighbor. Like, I think I need to have a say in this. I posted a TikTok about it on Tuesday, which is when we're recording this, but this is from News Channel 9's reporting by Sarah Hauer and Mary Beth Mangrum on Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. Like I said, this is an active case. I typically don't do these. By the time you hear this, there's probably going to be more updated info, which you guys can go check my TikTok. I should have updated info videos on there. So a Cleveland man shoots and kills his ex-wife. Craig Liner, his full name is Charlton, but he went by Craig, was charged with first-degree murder and felony murder in the murder of his ex-wife, Karen Liner. Police say Karen was killed at a home in a new subdivision in Cleveland on Monday, January 27th. An arrest report says that dispatch received a phone call where a woman on the other line was heard repeatedly yelling, "Please stop." The voice was Karen Liner. The report says that dispatch then heard gunshots and immediately sent officers to the scene. Officers arrived to find Karen Liner with a gunshot wound to the head, deceased. The report says that surveillance video from a Ring camera captured Craig Liner coming to and from the scene in a silver Lincoln MKZ, which, by the way, I've heard is either he purchased it or was using it because Karen didn't know he had this car to follow her around in the months prior to her murder. And a witness, I'm going to call him JC, says that just after the murders took place, he witnessed Craig coming home. I don't know if they were neighbors or if he was like staying with him, and murder, quote, "It's done, I killed her." JC then told police that Craig Liner asked him to take the guns inside of his residence, and the report says that Liner then left the scene in his Range Rover. Then JC told police that he did not want to put the murder weapons inside of his home, so instead he put it outside on the tire of his trailer. An official report from an officer on the scene says that they saw a Range Rover being driven by Craig Liner pass by the scene. So he literally went back to the scene and they called him and were like, "Hey, we want to talk to you." And he was like, "Okay, I'm at my house." So they went to his house. They pull up in the driveway and start walking towards him. He comes out of the house with his hands up and surrenders. Karen Liner was a prominent realtor in the Cleveland area, and she was before that a nurse for 20 years. A post by Bender Realty, which is where she was employed, said, quote, "Passionate about helping others, Karen was such a vibrant and kind person. She was eager to help anyone who needed it. Heartfelt prayers for her family." A divorce document says that Craig and Karen had 2 children together. Their divorce had been finalized in September of 2024, and the divorce documents that were obtained in the court Craig accused Karen of, quote, inappropriate marital conduct, end quote, but the final decree that they agreed to cite was irreconcilable differences. Cleveland police say that Craig Liner is now being held at Bradley County Justice Center with no bond, and that is the most updated stuff. I'm sure he's probably about to have to go back to court here soon, and more stuff will be released to the public, but that is what we have now.
So sad.
So horrible. I'm sick for her 2 babies. Just really upsetting. So I'll keep you guys updated. My TikTok, TaylarJane98, is probably the best place to get like in real time updates from me. And then other than that, Patreon, be fucking prepared for the next time we get to talk about the Baldoni shit, Baldoni Lively shit, because some wild ass shit's come out since we last talked.
For reals.
Ugh. So we'll probably do that on the Pipe and Hot Goss that's coming up here soon. But sorry to be a bummer. Love you guys.
Love you. Bye.
Talk to ya later. See you on TVB. I don't remember what it is, but I know it's good.
Spiral? No.
Spiral was this week. Hold on, let me think.
I can tell you.
Tell me. TVB 19.
Galentine's.
Yay. Oh, yay. We're going to do a Galentine's Day party. Okay, great. Well, we'll see you on Tuesday for Galentine's Day party with CNC. Love ya. Bye.
Love you. Bye.